This is the Greenline 48 and it comes as either a coupe or, as we have here, as a flybridge. Engine options are 220 or 300 horsepower from Volvo, or 380 or 480 horsepower from Cummins, and this being a Greenline, there is of course a hybrid option. This particular boat, with a good spec on it, including teak decks, a high-low bathing platform and bow and stern thruster, comes in at £835,000 including VAT. And what strikes you instantly when you step on board is how practical it is, and that starts with these fantastic side decks. First of all, they're very wide, so you can walk down them very easily, one foot in front of the other, all the way up to the bow. There's always a railing to hand. They're at a good height as well, very easy to grab onto those. This side door's a neat feature as well. It means you have another passage into the saloon aside from the cockpit. And then down here you have the boarding gate, which is a great touch, makes crewing a lot easier. You can get on and off, you don't just have to do it from the bathing platform. There's only one on this side, but then it's the size you want it because it's by the other side door. And you have a bit of cover overhead as well. These nice protected side decks, they make the boat feel a bit bigger. You have a little bit of shelter, and this is a nice touch as well. You have protection here, but you have the glass you can see through with the Greenline logo attached as well. And then we're into the cockpit. So there's an aft galley layout, which means it connects really well to the cockpit, especially well on this boat because you have this bar area here. This flips down, and then obviously this window opens up, and those doors slide right over to the port side, which means there's a really great connection here between the inside and the outside. And actually, because it's a completely flat deck, if you do want to wander inside and sit in the main saloon, it's really safe and very easy. It's nice that you have a good sized fridge freezer in here as well. It's not quite domestic size, but it's not far off, and loads of counter space too. And the other thing is that the windows are huge and they're deep too. So even when you're sitting down in the saloon seating, you still have a good view out. We've had lovely weather today, but if you were stuck inside in poor weather, you still get plenty of natural light into the saloon area. So, downstairs there's a 3-cabin arrangement. You have 2 identical guest cabins either side, but the starboard one is en suite to the day heads, which is a really good size and has an especially big shower cubicle. And then forward you have the master cabin, that has its own en suite, and you have the option there to either have a big double bed like this boat has, or separate scissor action berths. The flybridge feels really big because it extends back a long way. It's well compartmentalised as well. You have dedicated sunbathing space at the stern here, as well as the sunbathing space on the foredeck, and a really big dinette amidships, nice comfortable seating and high backs as well, so you really feel like you're in it and not on it. Opposite the wet bar, which has the usual stuff of a grill, sink, fridge, an ice maker, and this is a nice touch because you do have a double seat here at the helm, but this sinks in cantilevers, so you can have another 3 people facing forward when the boat's moving along. So this boat has got a pair of Cummins 380 horsepower diesels on traditional shaft drives, and we're cruising along at the moment at 18 knots, which feels like a really comfortable cruising speed. At this speed, the engines aren't too noisy. We've got the side door open at the moment and the back doors, but if you close them down, then it really is nice and peaceful in here. And even like this, it's perfectly comfortable to talk to other people within the saloon. We're doing about 40 litres per hour on each engine, and this generally just feels like a nice comfortable speed that's really not making the engines work too hard, but you're still making decent ground. Flat out, we've got about 25 knots today, which feels perfectly comfortable. I mean, from the outset, this is not a speed machine. It's a long distance cruiser. It's got a 1500 litre fuel tank, so if you drop down your speed to single digits, the range is really quite good. But this feels like the most comfortable cruising speed when you want to move a little bit more quickly. The handling isn't quite as engaging. It's quite stiff at both helms, and that could just be an issue with this particular boat, but it really takes a bit of effort to get the boat to move from side to side, and a turning circle is quite ponderous. So if you're going to make hard turns, you probably want to slow down and do it that way. Really, you find yourself just setting the wheel and letting the hull do the work. And it's a good hull. It's not that rough out here in the Solent, but we've been crossing wash all day, and it soaks it up nicely, feels good and comfortable. But really, the upside of that stiff steering is that you don't have to worry too much when you're in a straight line, because the boat sort of just sets itself. There isn't too much play in the wheel, so actually you can move along and the boat doesn't sort of move from side to side too much when you're up at speed. And I like the driving position as well. It's really good down here because, as you can see, I can stand up here nice and comfortably, but this double helm bench also bolsters, so you can obviously flip it down and sit if you'd like to. You have really good ventilation from this door here, and although there isn't a gate right next to you, there is a boarding gate on this side, so the helmsman can be part of the crew and easily get out onto the deck and help with lines. And the layout of the dash is very clear, it's very clean, it's got sort of rubber effect, quite dark material, so there isn't much glare down here. The throttles, the bow thruster controls and the trim tabs are all nicely grouped together, and it's all very sensibly laid out.